Hello, 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 hello. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Great to see all of you. Hello, 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 hello. In today's live, we are talking about one of the top things that we hear from people all the time. And it is, how do I overcome those really toxic workplace relationships and experiences and now stories that I have told myself based on those experiences? How do I overcome those and really show up in my power as an online business manager? And I have been so excited to talk about this because I know one of the reasons why people become an online business manager is because they want to be a thought partner. They want to own what they're good at. They have all of these amazing skills that they can go out and just like share with the world and become the leader that they know that they can be. However, we have stories, we have traumas, small t, that we're all trying to get over. So as always, let's kick things off with a question. So put into chat, what was the one food as a child, or actually now, that you will not touch? One food that you will not touch.
What's yours, Ashley?
One food that I would not, sad that I can't think of literally anything.
Oh. Mine would be parsnips.
I love those.
Oh.
Refried beans? What? You won't touch them? Kim! Coconut anything. Oh, you're allergic. Okay. Liver or tongue? I would hit up some liver. I mean, I don't know about tongue. Oh my God. I really can't think of anything that I'm like, meh, not for me.
Even like super healthy, like
what?
I don't know. I'm just thinking like my zucchini and squash sandwiches that I had as a child.
Okay, well, that's borderline. Doesn't even count as a sandwich. That is a salad. What about a fish with eyeballs? Oh, I've eaten those before too. I don't know if I've eaten the eyeball, but I had something and then it went away. Just going to be one of those days, ladies. Okay, well, enough about the food because it sounds like we could all go back and forth on this all freaking day, which I love. Maybe that's next week's. Okay, so talking, here's how we're going to talk about this today, because again, it's all about overcoming those toxic work environments and stepping into your power. So what I hear from employers all the time, and we have had an influx of employers coming to us being like, I need this right-hand woman. Like, I need this number two so badly. But the top thing that they hear is, Ashley, I need someone who has the bravery and has the confidence and a touch of assertiveness to stand up to me, to push back, who isn't afraid of opposing views, who can appreciate that healthy conflict. And when I say assertive, I don't necessarily mean you have to be like, I don't know, aggressive. You can do it in your own way if that's not you. But that's what I'm hearing over and over again. But in reality, I think that we can all think of several times where we have been hired to do something or joined a team or been in some sort of working relationship where they say, yes, this is a place for healthy conflict, and yes, we want opposing views, and yes, diversity of thought is how we come up with the best ideas. But then when you put it into practice, your opposing ideas aren't welcome, or you are met with something that just feels icky, or you are met with something that is not a healthy way to work in the workforce. And oftentimes you're coming to be an OBM because of those experiences. And so what we want to do is talk through different scenarios of the top toxic traits or toxic experiences and scenarios that we have seen people be in. And then talk about the following things. First, what happened? What is that scenario? The top 3 that we've seen. Second, why is that person speaking like that? Why are they reacting to you in that way? What is it that could be going on for them? So that you can have that empathy in there and really tackle that issue. And 3, what strategies do we have to overcome that or sniff out that type of toxicity and decide like, hey, I'm either going to put a boundary up and react like this, or I'm also going to say, you know what, this kind of behavior is a hard no for me. I'm no longer working with people like this. Okay, so we are going to walk through those 3 examples. So most difficult personalities. Number 1, blamers. Has anyone worked with a blamer? That was a top one for me, a blamer. So example of a blamer is someone who, when you're working with them, instead of asking a question about why something isn't working, they just blame someone else on the bad results. So not curiosity, you did not do X, which is why this campaign failed. And I've seen this time and time again. I don't think people mean to do this. I think that they are trying to be direct in their communication and pinpoint a problem very quickly. But Leah, can you tell us why do you think someone can turn to blame really quickly? And any ideas on how to improve?
Sure. First thing that comes to mind is that this person probably hasn't developed that art of asking curious questions first before they dive into assigning. They just go straight to that problem. And to me, that usually comes from people that have really high expectations for themselves. They hold themselves to a very high standard. They are big believers in the product that they are offering. And they have a fear of failure. So the first thing that they go to, it's like a default, is that it's got to be someone else's fault. It's not me. It's not me. And it's easier to blame someone else than right? Like it's all easier for all of us to be like, it's got to be someone else. It's not me. That's a harder place. That's a place of growth. So this person just might not be there. And again, it could just be because they're leading with this almost desperation to be successful, for this baby that they have to get out there and be the right thing for the world. So that's typically why I see people are doing it. It's either blindness from what they're offering or fear that they are failing.
I think you're really spot on the fear, especially in my experiences in overcoming people who do this. They are very afraid of things not going perfectly, or afraid of things not going, not succeeding. And so, yeah, it becomes it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. So Leah, what strategies do you have, or do you see that work to overcome these type of, this type of experience, so that you don't take it into the next place?
What I have seen work well is to come at it straight from that. I'm here as your online business manager. You've asked me to be here to run operations. That these conversations, I wouldn't even call out the conversation in the beginning. I would just say, you know what? I think what we really need is a very effective post-mortem meeting when we're getting to the end of an event, or just even initiatives. Let's like adding that wrap-up conversation in, putting a lot of structure around that. And again, they've asked you to come in as this operationals expert. So bringing these templates, bringing the form for the meeting, writing the agenda before it starts, it will give them the right space to talk through these things. And if there are those sort of, it's still happening, those because communication patterns take a while to change. So if it's still happening, it's reminding them, or even just complimenting on their passion for this. And I think the right time to talk about this is in this meeting, so that we can make sure we document all the things that we want to do right next time. Right. And so in that meeting, going over the learnings, the successes, and getting them in the habit of talking about those, as well as what went wrong.
Yeah, that was so good. And I'm thinking about all of the experiences that I've had with the blamers, and that would have completely cured it, because again, I don't think that they know that they're doing it. I think that they are scared. And so I just want to comment some comments that I'm seeing in the chat. People blame because they're super insecure. It takes some kill them with love to wear them down. And I think that's exactly what you were saying. Like, all the words that you were using, Leah, were very compassionate, very empathy driven, very, hey, let's make sure that this is a good experience next time for everyone and help solve those problems. We're also seeing, oh yes, we aren't seeing results. This is an example. You need to coach him or her on X, Y, and Z, and bear in mind that resource that Natalie, I'm not following this, but I don't think it's you. I think it's me.
Well, I think, Ashley, if I can jump in here, from what I'm seeing, what Natalie's sharing is a lot of times that new hire is getting blamed for past experiences. Natalie, I might not have this right, but this is what's popping into my brain. You're getting blamed for historical problems when you don't see quick results of this new hire or this new solution that you've brought in. And again, sometimes that takes modeling that communication, holding, saying, I completely understand. I hear some frustration here. I want to get this right. Let's schedule the time. Let's document this. I have a process we can work through. And a lot of times too, in our process here at Prowess, right? People are not hiring someone that looks exactly like them. We're encouraging people to hire what complements them. So a lot of times you're being brought in because they know they're not great at it. And even though they can't say that to you, modeling those positive behaviors can help nullify some of this. Not gonna be perfect, but you can get there.
Yes. And thank you, Leah, for clarifying. See, complimentary. That's why. Takes two to tango, ladies. Takes two to tango. All right. So any questions on that one before we move into the next scenario? And I know we have all been a part of this one. The micromanagers, number 2 scenario, micromanagers. They assign a project, right? And then they're constantly reviewing your work, checking your work, red pinning it, making recommendations on what you could do differently. And so it looks like they are actually doing all of the work, and making sure that you can't just go fly. And I'll be the first one to say, I have been very, very, very guilty of this too. So I can even give some perspective on why I was doing it and what I wish I would have done differently. And quite frankly, probably what Leah did to get me out of that micromanagement. So anyway, Leah, can you share why I was probably a bit of a micromanager at times?
Well, this is good because I don't think we've ever really talked about it, but what I see in general from micromanagers is this is their baby. They feel passionate about the success of this product, this business, this offering that they're bringing out there, and they want it done right. A lot of times too, and I would say this is maybe a difference in us, Ashley, is that you have skills for being ultra hitting those touch points with a customer. That's so important, the little details. And my brain is going into building the machine that we're going to get this out there. So things that I don't always understand the minutia of what's so important to you, right? So I think the why is because they want it to be perfect. They want to again, it's their baby. They want it to be perfect, what they're offering their audience. It's also their contacts that they're reaching out to, their network. So they want to make a great impression. And then lastly, it's knowing what really being able to know what's so important to someone for them to hold, you know what I mean? To hold it special, or making sure you know all those things. It's like me getting to know that you don't really like when things are centered on a page, right? But that's not something you would tell someone from the beginning, like, that's going to drive me crazy, right? It takes time. And a lot of times that driven person, that visionary, isn't necessarily communicating all those things in the beginning. And it becomes easier for them to just say, let me do it, versus trying to communicate all of these things.
That is absolutely spot on. Everything you're saying, the baby, the network, my experience coming from this. So I'm super, super particular about how it all goes. And Valerie mentioned in the chat with micromanagers, it's all about trust. And so Leah, do you have any strategies of how you could either get the trust right off the bat, or if you are noticing a micromanager, how you could just pause and either correct the behavior you're in or shed some of that past experience of micromanagement? How did you shed my micromanagement that I would do sometimes with you?
Well, starting there, what I think is an interesting thing is sometimes you have to I think when we feel we are being micromanaged, we need to ask, is this person really doing that? Or am I reacting to a time when it was much more toxic in the way that I was micromanaged, right? Kind of like a lot of what we're talking about today, we need to make sure that we are not bringing in our own past experiences and then projecting that on this person. And I think when working with you, that is one thing I had to learn to do, was to realize that this, like, when I was like holding my breath over like a comment, right, that I maybe perceived was you not trusting me, actually wasn't that. So I had to go to you with some very honest conversations of like, hey, I actually read this way. Is that what you meant? And have you go, oh, no, I was just either I was moving fast or this is just the way I write, and taking that moment to get on the same page. So it's realizing the trust is not going to be there from day one. It's going to take conversations and following meeting kind of like structured guidelines of how we're going to run this to get to know each other, to build up that trust. And I think also figuring out what is the 80-20 rule with someone and making sure in the beginning you're saying, okay, this is going out to this audience. Does this need to be 100%, or is this can we 80% get this right? And when you can start asking those questions and having that conversation, I think it helps. To me, it helps the CEO understand you want to meet their expectation, but you also have a long list of things to get done. So where are we? How much effort, how much prioritization am I putting on this specific thing? And then the same thing, like if you feel like someone's rewriting or going in and doing something, it's letting them know like, hey, this is not the best use of your time. You've asked me to do this. So you give me the first structure, and then either, yes, you want me to continue, or from now on, you take the first draft and I'll take it from there. But like helping them also see the value of your time, what they're paying you for, and getting on the same page there.
Yes, everything you're saying, spot on. Another thing that I would add is, sure, technically they are your client, and a lot of the times we think like whatever the client says goes. But if they're a true thought partner, you are worth your weight in gold. And so also I think that you can say, hey, I was reading it like this. Next time that you say this, can you say it more like this? Because, I was irked for no reason. I think a lot of people, maybe not all, and that would be a red flag, but I think a lot of people like, oh my gosh, no, that is totally not what I meant. Like you were saying, Leah, I'll be try and be really, really cognizant of not doing that, or not using that word, or not having a smiley face at the end, whatever it is, so that everyone is comfortable and it's a good communication environment for all. I don't want it to feel very one-sided, like whatever the CEO wants goes.
Yes. And one good exercise that we did in the beginning, and I believe you have a blog post about this, was the 5 C's from Brene Brown. And I think when we went through that exercise of understanding, and if anyone's not familiar, I can't remember all of them right now, but it's like getting clear on what the ask is. What is the cost of not getting it right? What is the color that you want to bring into it? The details. There's 5 of them, and going through that at least for a couple big projects as you're getting to know someone is so helpful to understand. Again, for me, it was getting to know you and your style and where you really put, even when you said 80-20, what does that mean, right? Because it can be different for a lot of people. So just a couple times going through the exercise until you can get to the point where there are fewer questions that you don't understand, and you start to understand the voice of those feedback notes, right? Because if they're short and quick, and like you said, no smiley face at the end, that typically doesn't mean what we think it means.
Very, 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 very true. And you can say, hey, if you're going to be short, can you just let me know? Like a lot of times when I'm responding to an email, I'll be like, hey, I have zero time. This is a stream of consciousness. Please don't read into it. So again, like you will get to know your person. But also I think that the one thing to really look at is how coachable are they with your preferences too.
Yes. And if there is a bigger team than you and the CEO, then your feedback to them and helping them structure that communication, it's going to help benefit everyone. And that's the expertise that you're bringing into this.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So I did put the blog post in the chat. So if y'all want to have a look at it. Any questions about the micromanagers, anything that you've seen, any other questions about that? I'm going to keep on going. All right. And our third bad behavior that you can overcome is, I want to make sure that I get this perfect. Oh, I'm also very guilty of this one too. Oh my God, Leanne, when we were writing this, we talked about it, but then now I'm really realizing like, oh my gosh, I do all of these things, but I'm getting better at this one, I feel. Anyway, bright and shiny object lovers. Oh dear. Part of being a visionary is we have all of these ideas and we're just running at all of these things because they all sound great and they all sound like they could really help the business and really help the mission and really help the goal. However, it can be very, very toxic when it's hard to understand where the goalpost is or where success is if it's constantly bright and shiny object and you are unable to do your job, therefore unable to give results, right? And that's why they're hiring you and they're like, well, I don't see any results. Well, you're like, yeah, but the goalpost has been, okay, all these different places. So has anyone worked with one of those? Again, myself included. Leah, squirrel. Yes, exactly. Yes. Valerie said struggled with a boss with this in the past, constantly adding new projects. Absolutely. Absolutely. So Leah, why do you feel like that's toxic? Tell us more about this and what are some things that we could go do?
Well, like you said in the beginning, I think a lot of it is you can't show the results, right? And that can be frustrating. Then that's where like I think you can overlap with that blame personality, right? Is because they're not seeing it. They want to know what the ROI on this is. And I often think about it as like Charlie Brown and Lucy with the football. And Lucy's like, no, kick it, knock this out of the park. And then all of a sudden she changes it, right? She moves the football. So, right, like if you have a project and you've spent a ton of time on it and then they pull the plug or they go on to the next big priority, you're like, wait, I just put all this time and effort. And so it can be very draining. It can suck your energy. You can feel like you're not making any progress. And I will also admit that as like an OBM, it gets, when you're charging someone, right, you got to do that invoice at the end of the month. And all of a sudden you feel like, well, I don't have any real results, but you spent all these hours. So again, it's toxic because it causes confusion for us and makes it stressful for us. And so I think the ways in which you can organize this or what we can do, or I guess let's start with why they're doing it, right? And that is because they're visionaries. There's a lot of information that they want to get out to the world, a lot of information coming into them from other people. And so it's hard for them to stay focused and organized. But guess what? That's why they hired an online business manager to help them stay organized. And this is where I do think leaning into your power here will help you as well as them, because it's actually what they need to say, okay, it's Monday morning. They talked to someone over the weekend and now they need to write an ebook. This is going to be our next big push. We need to get this done in 2 weeks. We need to get it out there. I already promised 6 people. Great. Which of these things on my list would you like me to stop doing to get that done? Because that's going to take 100% of my time. And then they're going to say, oh, well, let's take a look at this, right? So it's helping them understand it. And I won't say this is why we did it, Ashley, but I think one thing that's helping us is a project management tool. Like,
totally.
I just got totally nerdy about ClickUp, you guys. So if anyone wants to chat about that, but looking at that tool, even if putting in how much time a certain thing is taking me, all of that is information to bring back in the meeting if this is the kind of person you're working with, because chances are this person is a ton of fun to work with, right? There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of excitement. There's so many things that you can do, but to best serve them and for you to feel fulfilled, it has to stay organized, and you have to be able to check things off that list and get to a conclusion point with things for both sides to be happy.
Absolutely. Yes, Leah, to everything you said. I also think that you can, if they bring on another project that kind of feels, left field, I think you can also take it back to the KPIs, because as an OBM, it is your job to help them establish their key performance indicators for year, 5 years, quarter, what have you. Okay, how does this relate? What results do we think this is going to get us? And what are we taking away in order to do this? And when you are coming to them with those questions, that feels very consultative rather than, I don't have the time to do that. I don't have any hours left. It's a very different conversation. Saying things like, okay, I think the closest way that we're going to get more revenue, if that's what their goal is to actually keep charging on all of these different things. Are we okay if we do a little bit less revenue this month and I'm focusing 3 full days on this? Likely they're going to say no. Like Leah and I specifically spent time this month actually on supposed to be build month, build week, whatever. But we were okay that we may or may not, we still are because Leah's a freaking wizard. We may or may not hit all of our numbers. Like I said, she's a wizard. We are. But we knew that. We had that conversation. In order to build all of those things, we had to put other things on pause, and that's okay. But we had that conversation because she came to me in advance and said, this is what we need to do. This is the result of it. It's an investment in both of our time. Let's go. Very different conversation than, I don't have the time. I can't do this ebook. No, I'm overwhelmed.
Yes. And I think tools like the project management software and a dashboard of revenue and KPI goals, when you have that visual in front of the person who does have the bright and shiny object syndrome, that's what can pull them back in and be like, let's take a good look at this, right? Here's the list of initiatives. Here's our timetables for those. Here's what this is going to impact on your goals, revenue wise, or even just like you said, KPIs. Then they can focus on it. But otherwise, they're responding to the last person they talked to, and they don't have a visibility into where, everything they said that they wanted to be focused on. So again, I think these are exciting people to work with. There's so much fun that can be had, and they are asking you to be that sounding board and say, okay, but I just want to remind you that last week you said the most important thing was not content. It was getting you in front of one-on-one meetings, or making that up. But you know what I'm saying? Like reflecting back to them, sharing their words with them, and that will help pull them back to center.
I love it. Love it. Love it. So that really wraps up our 3 different work styles that we've seen that can be very toxic, that are very much so in the workforce, that maybe we don't realize that we've experienced them, and then are taking stories and taking that past interaction with us moving forward. And hopefully you got some really great understandings of why that is, so that you can be more empathetic and then take those strategies on, hey, how do I go use this to claim my power and be the best darn OBM that you could ever meant to be. So thank you all so much for being here with us today. Next week, you are in for a treat. I'm bringing in a special guest, my friend Virginia, who talks a lot about mindset, especially when starting your own business, and especially when you are dealing with clients or having some uncomfortable, maybe it's conversations, or maybe it's just uncomfortable thoughts about the unknown, and how to really tap into your best self when it comes to mindset. So I am very excited for her to join. She does a lot of consulting with social impact companies. So she is just seeing the best and the best that are making massive change, and really helps them align their mindset. So very pumped. As always, see you on prowessproject.com, in our Facebook group, OBM Opportunity. And if you need anything whatsoever, just reach out. See y'all next week.